for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Raini Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to scottallenroberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad so he can take me to Disneyland.
Well, happy Sunday morning, one and all. Welcome to the program. This is Scotty Roberts. Sans Raini. I see no Raini. She is still in bed upstairs, but I heard her talking to one of the children, so she may amble down here at some point. So remember, folks, those of you who are new here, those who have never been here before, Sunday morning, it's Sunday, is really Intrepid Radio Light. We don't get into the deeper types of topics we get into on Intrepid Radio, but we do hit. That doesn't mean we aren't deep on Sunday. It's just Sunday morning. So we're kicking back a little bit. It's a little more informal and, of course, a little less cluttered, we hope. And so good morning to everybody. Grumpy Stack, good to see you. Scotter Robertos, he says. Grumpius Stackius, I think is what Master Finn calls you. Good morning, Andrea. Good to see you out there in Montana. And who else we got? We got Grumpy in Louisiana, Andrea in Montana. We got Roger Rabbit somewhere in Illinois, I do believe. Or is it Indiana? No, it's Illinois. Illinois. And let's see. I'm just doing a check on where everybody's coming in from. There's Spirit Heart Gods and Goddesses, Cordia. Welcome. I can't remember where you are from. There's Elderberry. Not sure where you are, Elderberry. You're not in Minneapolis, are you? I didn't think so, but I wasn't sure. And Daniel Ondra, good to see you. You're Virginia, aren't you, Daniel? And Robert, Indiana, Roger. Sorry about that. I should have known that because I talked to you as I was passing through there in a blizzard. And Daniel's Virginia. And Elderberry's Missouri. Do you say it Missouri or Missouri? So he's in misery, says Grumpy Stack. Carly Sagan, we're in the cornfields of Indiana. Welcome this morning, Carly. And everybody else who's in here, if I missed you, it's only because I missed you, not because I wanted to miss you. So welcome this morning. And a nice Sunday morning it is. Back in short-sleeved shirts. It's been like it was 80 degrees here yesterday, which is nice. After a week ago, tomorrow, we had snow on the ground. So that's always a nice thing to see. It's going to be in I think the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, declining a little bit all week long. It's that time of year, which makes it kind of nice. I like fall up here if it's prolonged. I don't like fall when it's clipped off by winter too fast. But, of course, we're notorious up here for having blizzards on Halloween, which is funny. When I was growing up as a kid, I only remember once in vivid memory walking through sleet on Halloween. It was getting cold and icy and sleety. But as a kid growing up in Minneapolis, I don't remember any blizzards on Halloween, just since I've been an adult. The first big one was in 91. And I remember because I was living in Detroit at the time. And I said, holy crap, they had 21 inches of snow on Halloween night with the Halloween blizzard. And so it doesn't get that snowy up here. It starts to get cool, and cool's okay. You can put on a jacket and put your costume over it or however you want to dress. But snow is a little too early on Halloween, if you ask me. If you ask me, we were without power for 3 days, says Andrea, over on where you were living. You weren't on the ranch yet. So that was prior to that. A little southern Minnesota action. Hey, Susie Q, good to see you. Glad to have you, as always. Emerald Eagle, Grand Rising All. Good to see you, brother. We are one favor B. So there you are. Durwood in New Orleans. Nolans. I think we also have Field Guy down in New Orleans, but I don't see him in here yet this morning. He may or may not be with us. So Chief Elder Remeldian is here. Remeldian Eagle at Emerald Eagle. You're saying hello to someone, to Emerald Eagle. Sorry about that. Need to move away from Minnesota. Is that where you are, Remeldian? Are you in Minnesota? You're saying I need to move away from Minnesota. Yeah. I was having a conversation last night out at the Renaissance Festival grounds where we were doing the Phantom's Feast. There's a bug in here. If it's not snowing, we got mosquitoes. Although that wasn't a mosquito, I don't know what it was, a gnat or something. And up here, it's funny. We talk about moving away to warmer climes. It'd be nice to live in warm weather. But I hate humidity, places that are high humidity. Like, I'll never move to Florida. And they say never, but I don't foresee it. I got one bug in here, and it wants to land on my face. They're looking for food. And so somebody was saying last night, Minnesota's great. We love being in Minnesota. And we love the idea of moving to warmer climes, especially when ice and snow hit us. And so Florida, right out for me. I don't want to live in Florida. It's too humid. It's too hot. Texas, I know there's lots of nice places in Texas. I went to Dallas, lived there for a month. Was considering moving the whole family down there. No, don't want to live in Dallas. Dallas is... I don't know if you're from Dallas. I apologize. To me, Dallas is an ugly city. It's all traffic and highways and bristly land, and that's about it. Who wants to live there? I suppose it's got its green places, but you know how that is. I don't want to move to California. I could live in the Pacific Northwest. Now they get a little snow up there, but it's mild. But they get a lot of rain. And so they say there's a lot of cloud cover, a lot of rain all the time up in the Pacific Northwest. Although that looks pretty nice. I'd live in Oregon. But Portland's a shithole right now. Who wants to live in Portland? And so, pardon me if you're from any of these places and I'm overgeneralizing, but there it is. I thought the desert Southwest would be nice. I could live in Albuquerque or Santa Fe or someplace like that. But then, as Rainey so vividly points out to me, well, then you got to deal with snakes and scorpions and all kinds of critters that will eat you or poison you. So up here in there's Subspace Radio. That's Russ, the owner of this station. Russ lives in Ohio, Huron, Ohio. My dad lives in Cincinnati. We have a possibility of relocating to Cincinnati. And it's not in the city proper. He's about 45 miles out of town. And he's about 20 minutes from the Serpent Mounds. I've mentioned that before. And my dad has pretty much offered us, hey, if you want to live down here, you can have some land. if you want to build. So it's tempting. It's very tempting. I'd love to live by my dad, especially since he's reached that early mid 80s point in life. I'd love to be around him more. I'd love my kids to be around him more. So that's still in the backs of our heads, along with a million other different things we'd like to do. We'd still like to build our shipping container home. And he said, why not build it down here on the land? So there's that possibility that's still hanging out there. And Russ doesn't have space for a healthy happy hour radio, huh? Says Grumpy Stack. I have no idea. You have to talk to Russ about that, brother. We'll see. Make him a good presentation, a good solid present. And show what you got, show your wares. And that's all I got to say about that. And let's see, what else we got? Yeah, why not? Says Russ. Yeah, why not? So there it is. Roger Rabbit, can we come join the commune if you move to the Cincinnati area? We travel down there for Kinsey's to visit the doctors at Cincinnati. Hell yes, Roger and Carly. My dad has said, there's like 10 to 15 acres. And I said, I don't know if we could buy that off you right now. And he said, well, it's all going to be yours someday anyway. So that's how it was put in generalities. And so I think it would be a safe bet to say if we wanted to move down there, we're pretty set for land and we could build. So there's that. And man, if we moved down there and we had acreage, you know what, Roger, I think that would be such a cool idea. We have always wanted to have our friends who say, hey, if we get land or if we win the lottery, we're going to buy land and we'll build you a house too, just right over there. So we could just walk over anytime we want. And I think that would be a hell of a lot of fun. And I'd love for my son, Sam, if we ended up moving down there, I'd love to take him down, put him up a one shipping container home over on the land. He said, I would love to do that. I'd love to have him nearby. Then my daughters were about halfway, more than halfway to seeing my daughters in North Carolina. So boom, there it is. So that's got a lot of pluses in the plus category for going down to my dad's. And so if any of you don't know, I didn't know my dad until I met him one day when I was 16. And then I didn't meet him again. We talked a little bit, and I didn't meet face to face with him again until I was 31. And maybe 30. I was 30. Rainy, Annette, I'm sorry, my ex-wife was just pregnant with the twins. And so we went down to visit him. And we've been in close touch ever since. So it's always good to see my dad and talk to my dad. I owe him a call. Let's see. I'm looking at seeing what some of you guys are saying. Wow, Carly, I thought since Indiana is a bit more high up than Texas and Tennessee and Florida, I thought it would be cooler. No, there's that kind of midway point in the United States, Matthew, where it doesn't get cool till you get like north of, you get Chicago and north. Down below that, it can stay pretty warm. So, it's not hot or humid as those as like Florida and the southern states. Indiana. I used to have good friends that lived in Indiana that I did work with and so on. So I traveled in and out of Indiana all the time. So closer to Chicago, lake snow effect. Oh, I hate the lake snow effect. In Detroit, we got that. We didn't get heavy, harsh winters like Minnesota, but that weather system from Minnesota would move across to the Detroit area, but across the lakes in there. Lake Michigan and all that. And you'd wake up all the time with a thin sheet of ice all over everything. And the occasional snowfall. Man, I did not like living there. I didn't like Detroit in the first place anyway. I went out there for a job. So we still get 90s in the summer in Montana, but it's a dry heat. See, I like a dry heat. But Montana, you also get in Montana, you can get some pretty harsh winters out there because Montana, it moves into the Dakotas, which is frigid in the wintertime, and then moves over into Minnesota, which is about the same. So I don't know how those Native American tribes existed on those plain states. I think they found a wooded area and just hunkered down for the winter. Andrea, I don't believe that dry heat stuff. LOL. Maybe in Montana, but Arizona dry heat is insane. And it was interesting. I came from about 103 degrees and high humidities up in Minnesota. One year I had to fly down to Arizona to speak at a convention. And it was 114 degrees, but there was no humidity, and it felt milder. It felt better. Go figure. So teepees are very warm. Yes, they can be. If you got your fire going in the middle and you've packed out the sides and the bottoms so cold doesn't seep in. Yeah. So I hear. I suppose you didn't do a lot of winter activities when you lived in a teepee out on the plains states. So, well, welcome to everybody that's here. I see Uncle Dave is out in the wings, wanting to come in and join us. And I'll make him wait another minute. Shh, don't tell him we saw him. So we'll come and get him in a minute. He's busy painting anyway. So, Stephen Myers, you're still out in Egypt. Stephen Myers, remember, was a guest on Intrepid Radio, talking pyramids. It's 4:17 p.m. in Egypt right now. They're still out there in Egypt. I hope you're having a good time. You should call in, Stephen, if you've got a chance. Call in, and we'll put you up on the screen, and we'll talk for a few minutes and give us a rundown of what you're doing in Egypt. Hey, Beth. Beth is in Arizona right now. It's been 90 degrees most of the time. Yeah, that keeps you nice and warm. So Carly's second. Roger agreed. Looks good, Scotty. What looks good? What did I do? Oh, the new color on the screen overlay looks good. It was black, and it just looked before, so it was tough. So tough on the eye. Let's see. Let's bring in Uncle Dave. There he is. He's facing the camera. Let's bring him in. Boom. How you doing, Uncle Dave?
Good. How are you this morning?
I'm good. I'm schnazzy. I'm dandy. Not a dandy, just dandy.
Just got done watching your Irish Cottage thing from last night.
Oh, yeah. Was that pretty cool or what? That was from 2 nights ago.
Was it 2 nights ago?
Yeah, we didn't do live streaming last night. So just did some live streaming because we didn't have the radio show on Friday. So it was an interesting time out there. I was going to talk about that, the ghost hunting. I guess ghost hunt is probably the easiest category to plug it into. We don't refer to ourselves as ghost hunters. I was explaining this to somebody last night. I said we are more paranormal investigators, if you want to put a fancy tag on it. We're just curious people looking to see what's out there. And we got what we do is Jimmy does his show, The Phantom's Feast, which is a feast, and he puts on a very Victorian, Edwardian era spiritist parlor type of show for everybody. And he's a great entertainer and always has been. And it's done in Bad Manor, which is one of the old buildings out on the festival site that is kind of, it was designed to look like an old, think a Tudor era hall, where you might have the thrones on one end and the meeting hall or a dining hall or a gathering hall. And so it's got that whole look about it, that old building and the interior, and probably a matchstick would. I don't know that it's a fire hazard. I think they have to keep up the code because they have public out there. But
I would call it a tinderbox. Yeah,
I would call it a tinderbox. Yeah. So not to worry. They had candles lit in there and stuff, and it was fine. Nobody burned down last night. Not trying to say anything, just saying. So we're in that setting, and he does his show up on a little stage in the front, just a step up from the floor, and tables are all in there. They serve him a dinner and put on the entertainment, and it's pretty cool. People love it. They come out there every year, some of them multiple shows. And I think Dave Schrader is going to be out there on Thursday
Yeah,
or
I think so.
Friday.
I think I heard that.
Yeah, he's going to be out there doing his little presentation after the show on Thursday or Friday this week. And so we came on Friday and Saturday. Hey, you got porn going in the background there, Dave. Made you look.
I was trying to figure out what
did I
Fox
leave
News
that
was
on?
showing on the what Fox was showing on the thing that would look like porn.
And so Rainey and I, as most of you know, because I announced it a couple of times, we went out Friday and Saturday night. Jimmy had us out to do the ghost hunt. And the ghost hunt isn't really formal. It's there to kind of show people what we do, see if we can raise anything in 15 minutes at 3 different stages that are out there. And so we had a good time with it. And we got some interesting stuff on Friday night. We brought the old Frank's box out there and gave it a little whirl, which it was very interesting. We stayed after hours last night and went to a different place on the site. Chuck Hendrickson was there, and Nicole, who comes into the chat room every now and then, she was there. She came with Chuck, and Rainey and I, we went, and then Ben, one of the security guys, came out with us too and walked around with us. And this was after everybody was gone, and we stayed pretty late. You know how it is when you're, Dave, you know, when you're like out in the woods or you're outside, you're late at night, and your eyes eventually grow accustomed to it. And while it's pitch black when you step outside, you can see almost everything around you because your eyes open up out there.
Yeah.
And so that's what it was like. You know, you could still trip over a rock, but you could see pretty well.
Yeah, but it's not like you're going to find a rock in a quarry there. So
yeah. How impossible does that sound? So I'll get to that one next. But Friday night, we were out. We went to the pavilion stage. And I've shown you all pictures of that before. The pavilion stage, if you look at it, walking up to it, it's an open air stage. It can seat about 300 people on the benches. And then there's a big stage in the back. And there's the stilts that go up, and there's an upper floor that's open air. It's got railings around it. But then on the top, it's got 2 spires that go up. So the silhouette of this place is just amazing when you walk up to it in the dark. And it's pretty cool. But the structure is only about 35 years old at most.
Yeah.
It was built to look old. And but there's the story of an entity that was trapped up there. And every year we tend to get something. Not trapped is not the word. Bound up there.
Bound. Because
they couldn't banish it. And so they bound it. That's the way the story goes from some pretty reliable people out there. And some of the older set of people out there. Dave's in my age. Well, Dave's younger than me. So you get to what I mean. And so we're talking on the Frank's box, and we're trying to say, look, every year you talk to us. And I said, look, I don't know if you're evil. I don't know if you're good. I don't know what you are. You were deemed something that was darker and couldn't be sent away. And so you were bound here. I said, are you still bound here? Or is that just your own little thing to go, you think I'm bound here? I'm not. And so I'm talking like this to it. And I said, you don't have to say anything to us, but we'd love to hear your voice. In all due respect, they said, let us know you're here. And we heard blips and beeps and over the spirit box. We had the Frank's box.
Like you do.
What's that?
Like you do.
Like you do. And so then at one point, if you go watch the video on the YouTube channel, it's the second video we put up Friday night. So it's the later timestamp on it. There was one point where at 9 minutes and 30 seconds in, is where this starts. And you see us focusing on the Frank's box. We're saying, if you're here, if you could talk to us, or if you don't want to talk to us, make a sound, because it's done that before. And it's done that when we don't have the audience or Jim there. We go out and, we get responsive banging upstairs. So it's not like anybody's hoaxing anything. And so we asked for that, and we got it. I think it hits around 9:40, but you go into 9:30 or so, you start to get the setup. And there was a big bang upstairs. Subsequent couple little bangs, like it sounded like a piece of wood, like somebody had a 2x4 and dropped it on the wooden floor upstairs, and it bounced.
Yeah, and there's nothing mobile up there.
There's nothing. There's no rooms up there. It's all open air. There is a ladybug crawling on my screen, which is a bad sign for inside the house in the fall. Ladybugs start. Hopefully, we don't have an infestation of ladybugs. One year, I had to take a shop vacuum, just vacuumed them all up and dumped them outside. But salt binding, asks Spirit Heart, Cordia. No, that's not a myth. That does work.
But that's not what they did.
But just dumping table salts won't do anything.
I think she's asking if that's how they bound him.
No,
up there.
No, it was ritual. They performed ritual to bind it.
What happened is there were some young pagans playing around with magic and not really understanding what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And they summoned something that they couldn't get rid of, and they freaked out. And
so they went gotten the older pagans.
Yeah, some elders that are worth their weight in salt. They know what they're doing.
Yep.
And and what happened is it didn't just all happen in one night. They summoned this thing. They couldn't get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended up around Ballina, the Irish cottage.
Yep.
And they had 6 broken legs in one weekend or something like that. It was crazy. There were all these things happening. They had a priest come out and try and banish the thing. Couldn't get rid of it. All this negativity was starting to happen around it. And that cottage has been nothing but peace and joy for decades, right?
Yeah.
And I can't remember if it was a medium that had come through or somebody that was more psychically in tuned, and they were like, "Oh my God, there's a negative energy that's here. It's really powerful."
Yeah.
And the elders came up and they banished it. They couldn't get rid of it. It wouldn't go. So they bound it to the place where they thought it would do the least harm. And that was the second floor of the pavilion, because it was off limits. Nobody could go up there.
Yep.
And there used to be a spiral when I was younger. There was a spiral staircase in the turret that went up there. People were still finding ways to sneak up there. And so they took the staircase. I literally took all the treads out of the staircase.
Yep.
Okay.
Now the ladder's not even there as of last night.
And for a while they kept a wooden ladder in there so that for the safety service could get up there from time to time. And so site crew could hang banners.
And could I make this statement? When a place like that is deemed unsafe, it's not because it's fallen apart. It's because there are stupid people who do stupid things.
Right.
It's safe if you're smart. It's unsafe.
It was deemed unsafe the day it was built. And the reason they did it, so they built it with the intent that people would be able to sit up there and watch the joust.
Yep.
And the state came through and said, "Oh, you're going to have to." There were railings.
You got to do that.
They gave that you'd have to have 2 sets of staircases. You have to have an elevator for the handicap. You have to have. They just made all these things, and it's like, look, it's a medieval fair. We can't put an elevator in. We're not going to put a cage. They wanted a cage around it so nobody could run and leap over the railing and jump over
and fall 12 feet to the ground.
And so it was easier for Peterson to just lock the damn door and say we won't use the second floor.
Yep. So it's just visual now. It was a beautiful building. Still is. Very artistic building. And so last night or the night before, we got the banging. Matthew Sainsbury was watching live with some of you, and he said he heard it when it happened. And then I quick rushed out, and I shined flashlights up top because there's no lights out there. There was nothing. We didn't see anything, of course. You could see sky from the other side. And then it did it again as I came back into the stage area. And then the second night, we heard some one tap, like somebody tapping at the Irish cottage on like a wooden spoon on a iron skillet was what it sounded like. And the Irish cottage was imported over. It's not owned by the festival. It's privately owned. And it's a peaceful little place to be. They've got a tree out front that full blooms. I want to say it was a maple tree out front. Might be an old oak, a smaller oak. I think I'd know that for all the years I walked under there. But it's never grown big and tall like an oak. But it's a big tree out there. That
I think it's a maple.
The front yard.
I think it's a maple. I think it's a maple tree.
I think it's a maple. And so it's supposed to look like an Irish cottage would have looked in the 15 and 1600s. Very peaceful place, calming. I used to go there just to sit inside the cottage, and there was reenactors in there rather than entertainers. And they were entertaining, but they were reenactors, and it was just calm. And I liked going in there. And there are stories that not so much that it's ghostly or spirit beings or anything like that, but that it's the Fae or elementals, which we've talked about on our show before. Yeah. So you know what we're talking about when I mention them. And so Friday night we got the tap, and Rainey had heard that before too. A couple of years ago we were out there, and it's like they don't like the crowds. And so they won't do much in front of the crowd, which is interesting. And as the crowd would walk away, and Dave knows the lay of the land there, we would walk next over to the tree spirit, or the wicker man tree. And then we go on to the bakery stage. And so as people were they were gathering around the old guardian tree there, that's carved the wicker man face on it and all that, we started to hear, we stayed behind for a couple of minutes, and that's when the activity happened. Rainey heard the tink, 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 somebody like a wooden spoon on a skillet from inside. And the little cottage is not much bigger than this office. It's a one-room cottage. I think there's a loft in it.
Maybe 12 by 24.
Yeah, small. It's like a car garage, single car garage size. When you think of it, it's like Wattle and Daub, the way it's built. And so there's no place to hide anything or anybody. And no. It's got a couple little outbuildings outside back because they always have some goats or sheep out there or something. And during festival season. And so she heard that, and you can look in, you can pull the shutters apart, and you can look right in on the front of the house. They're just tied shut on the inside. And so you could look in with a crack of about that big, and you could see inside, and nobody's in there. And then last year, Sam was there with me and Sarah Soderlund, and they both heard the ringing bell. And Sam looked inside, and there's a bell on a string that was swinging like a pendulum inside. And there's nobody around the cottage.
Yeah. And you're not going to, there's no wind that's going through there that's going to be swinging it or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
And natural spirits, says Ramillion. That's it. And so we talked for a couple of minutes with the people last night. The audience was there, and said, sometimes you're not talking to a ghost or a spirit as you might traditionally think. I said, but think in the terms that the elemental spirits are real things. They're real beings. They live. And we've been talking about that with Celtic mythology during the week on the show. You've got your fae and your fairy folk. And I had to tell those folks, I said, you got to get the idea of the gossamer winged fairies, from Victorian era. That's not what we're talking about with the fae. And as we all know so well from Intrepid Radio. And so I said, what you're probably encountering here then is some of the elementals. And we got some activity there last night. Jury's still out on it in my mind, but we heard the bell last night, and things like that. So sometimes you're not sure what you're getting. And you have to be very careful because you got to look at the elements around. We couldn't get inside to look around, but we could look through the shutter cracks again. And so some things like that. Then we went on to the bakery stage. We didn't get much last night. The night before, we had benches tipped over up on the stage, things like that. And so, again, you don't know if I saw lights up there. And I thought it was somebody up there looking. And so I crawled up on top on the side to look at the stage where the noise came from. Because what they do in the off season, they take all the benches that are out on the green under the oak trees, 300 benches, and they stack them all on that stage for the winter season, for the winter. And so I climbed.
If you're going to have a big bonfire, you want a lot of fuel.
What's that?
You're going to have a big bonfire. You want a lot of fuel.
That place would make a massive bonfire. And so I climbed up in there and I looked in on the stage further in, Dave. I'm trying to think because I don't know the particulars of the bakery stage. When you look at it, you got an opening on the left and an opening on the right that I think the right was an oven. And you have the balcony over here, the decking. But
balcony's above the oven, more or less, yeah.
So right in front of the one on the left, the opening on the left, I saw 3 benches all caved in on each other in a big opening in the middle. And so that's what we heard, that clanking. But there's nobody. You can't see anybody running out. Somebody could run up the back of the hill up onto the knoll behind it. But, when something like that happens, it's pretty easy to find out if somebody's there. They're going to trip around and make noise and even rushing out of there.
And that hill is so stony. It's not easy to run up that hill. Without tripping and falling.
There's a stairway.
It's entangled with all kinds of briar and stuff too.
Decades ago, there was a stairway built in there, but don't think of a stairway. It's like wood in the dirt, in the ground, and there's tree roots and stuff like that that's used as a stairway to get up to the knoll. So we didn't see anybody there. And now the most interesting evidence we got was last night after the show. Everybody left in about 10:30. Everybody's marching out to their cars, closing things down. And we walked back. Dave, you'll know the lay of the land. And sorry, folks, you don't. I wish I had a map here to show you what we were doing just for visual reference. But keep in mind, remember, that whole site is an old oak grove. Until you get down, when you got down toward the Legends stage, Dave, the Legends stage is built like an old ship. It's got masts with a crow's nest up on top. And but before you get there, there's that back corner of the festival, I like to call it, or the front corner, because it's more toward the front. And there's a bunch of little shops, and it goes mildly downhill, and you come to a corner of shops, and then it turns over, and you go to the Legends stage and other things. And it's down below the bakery stage. We had the bakery stage, you had the paper mill, and then it starts sloping a little mildly downhill, and there's all these buildings down there that crafters had as shops, but they're all built-in old buildings.
Yeah, mostly painters and clothers and a couple of jewelers.
Yeah, and so just before you get to the corner, right where that corner is down there, Dave, there was an open-air round section on the second floor with a roof. It looks like it was a deck up there or something. They might have put flags and decoration, but it's all open air last night above the corner building, the very corner building.
I know what you're talking about.
Tower. That's
open air. I have a painter friend of mine that has a shop there. Yep.
There you go. And so you come 1 or 2 shops in this direction toward the bakery stage. Remember where the stone tower is there? That stone tower that used to be the King's Nuts.
Yep.
Somebody had that shop. I've seen glass blowers in there. Then somebody else bought it out and it became the King's Nuts food stand. And but there's this old ramshackle looking tower that was built to look a little ramshackle, a stone tower. But right
built
over
to look
there,
like a ruin. Yeah.
Just beyond that, in that line of shops going down to the corner, there's a building And it's got an upstairs, an extended, very Tudor-looking upstairs with a couple of, what do you call those? Dormers coming out. And it's got tarps over the front of it now for the season. But in that building, Chuck Hendrickson was there with us last night. And Chuck frequents the chat room quite a bit. He's been on in the after show. And he was safety services out there, security for years. And they found a dead body there one season. Just before opening, they go through all the buildings. They do all of the safety services has to go through just before the show starts for the season. And they found a dead body that had been there for quite a while upstairs in that shop. And it was obvious that what they found was somebody an indigent person who was obviously in the cold months trying to find shelter there. And he passed away up there, froze to death, I'm sure. And they found him kind of in a slumped position, laying down on his back in a slumped position against the wall. And he'd been there for a while, they said. So by the time you hit August, he probably had already thawed and it was probably not very pleasant. And so Chuck said, do you mind if we go down there? I want to see maybe if there's any activity you can pick up down there from this guy. And and this happened years ago, by the way. So we walked down there and no audience, no nothing. We don't ever go to this part of the fest. We used to go down to the Legends stage, but we don't anymore.
So muddy down there.
It can get muddy down there because it's in a low point in the corner there. And so, and it was nice last night. It was dry and it was warm. And so we went down there and I took the old Frank's box out in front of this building. And, you start asking the very typical questions. What questions do you ask when you don't know if anybody's there? Hello? Hello? Anybody here? Anybody like to speak to us? Can you hear my voice? If you can speak through this box. Chuck had a set of headsets that were amplified. It'd be like using the antenna to pick up amplified sound. And those were glorious, by the way. And he was listening in. And we were recording. We haven't gone through the recording yet. But eventually we got the words. We were getting all kinds of voices coming through the Frank's box, the old box, which I think is if you remember Mark Coltis being on, probably a lot more accurate way of picking up these voices. And so we got a voice that came through and a couple of and something, you can't quite understand what the voices are saying. The first thing we could understand, we said, is anybody here? I said, is the fellow who was here and he died here in the winter, obviously looking for shelter and froze to death? I said, are you here? And we heard a woman's voice say, haunted, coming out of the box. And we went, whoa. And then the next thing we heard was a man's voice that said, freezing, like that. Now, was that him saying, I was freezing cold? Is that all he remembers? Does he know he's dead? He died, obviously, in his sleep from freezing to death. So it was very interesting. But, and we got some other things. We had a couple of names that would come out and we weren't sure who they were. But
if you have to go, that's about the most peaceful way you can go.
Yeah, freezing to death is about the most peaceful way you can go because you'll freeze in your sleep and you're done. And so there was never anything indicating I'm scared. It's terror. It's frightening or anything like that. You got freezing. We got haunted. We got a couple of things, names and a couple of words. But we only spent about 20 minutes down there. But I thought that was really intriguing. That was a little off the beaten path that we normally do out there. I think it would be fantastic to go out there again in the off season when it's warmer. I don't like going out doing that stuff when it's cold. And you can go out in the daylight too. It doesn't have to be dark outside. So there's something about the veil being thinner at night things like that. But ghosts haunt in the daytime too.
That being said, festival security does not want people wandering around the site. This was not
Well,
an
I'd have to get
invitation.
permission. I'd have to
Yeah.
get permission to do it. And so there were a couple of people that actually on Jimmy's crew, somebody said for his entertainment at Bad Manners, said, I just saw somebody walk across. It would be, Dave, where the old chess game booth was set up as you're standing outside Bad Manor, looking down the lane toward the pavilion. There was the old chess booth there. And so right there, you know, at the end of what the Royal Arbor was, there was a line of light because there was a big spotlight on Bad Manor for all people coming outside to smoke or use the privies or something. And the next building over, which was a clothing building, if I remember right, would shadow. And then it was just black back there, and you could see the trees and things in the blackness and the lighter gray sky. But right at that line, and Rainey she said, I'm going to go check it out. And he thought he saw a shadowy figure moving across behind that area. And so she went, Rainey went all by herself. I said, you want me to come with? She goes, no, I'm just going to go check this out. So there's Rainey walking out in the dark, creepy old festival at night.
Olsen.
It's an Olsen. And so she walks down that line and she said, yeah, there's Chuck right there. Chuck just came in. He says, that was pretty fun last night. Can't wait to do it again. And Chuck, by the way, Chuck's a big guy. He's, you know, big safety services guy, shaved bald now. And, you know, so to make him
also
look
used
tougher,
to be Royal Guard.
Awesome Royal Guard. And I got my Reds from him, my costume from him back in the day when I started Royal Guard in the late 90s somewhere. And but Chuck was out there last night. Chuck heard all of this stuff with us. And the two words I remember, Chuck, do you remember anything? Call in if you can. If there was anything else I'm missing from last night, the words that I remember coming out of the Frank's box were haunted. It was a woman's voice, and freezing, a man's voice. And there were all kinds of other things. There were names that were given. And we don't know anything about, I don't know anything about, I'd never even heard this story till Chuck told me last night about.
Yeah, I'd never heard that one either.
Finding a dead guy, an indigent dead guy up in the top of one of the buildings out there that had obviously been there since the winter. So
now, when I was younger, down in the, well, so you have the campground area, and off towards the swamp, they found a chest freezer with chains and padlocks on it.
Nice.
And
they just threw it out and said, let them try to figure this one out.
Yeah, and site crew and safety services were called in. It was just like the 3 or 4 days before festival, and I was traveling on the circuit at the time, so we got to town early. We were camping down there already, and the guy that I traveled with, he was on site crew and safety services, and site crew Monday through Friday, and safety services on the weekend. And
it was thrown out there, Matthew Sainsbury, out in the swamp area. So.
Yeah, and it was old. It was a chest freezer from, say, the 50s or early 60s.
So what happened? What's the upshot? Did they open it up? Obviously, they had to open it up. But.
Yeah, Scott County came in and took possession of it, and we weren't given. So that they found it, and they were going to cut it open, and somebody went, this is way out here, and it's such." It was suspicious enough at the time that they called the sheriff's department, because it's not like, hey, I'm going to get rid of the old freezer. I'll just stick it out back. Somebody had to have driven it out there.
It was dumped there.
Yeah, and it was a long ways from what would have been town back in the day. Okay, so people were of the opinion that this was a body dump. And Scott County came and took possession of it, and we didn't get a very clear answer as to what they found, but we believe they did find human remains in it.
Makes sense. From the
um,
50s.
or early 60s. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was an old chest freezer. It wasn't like something from the 70s or 80s. It was,
Yeah. And for somebody to drive it way out there, that's
yeah.
interesting.
Well, and
What was
think of it
there
size
in the
wise.
year that they
It's a
dumped it
chest
would
freezer,
be
kind of
interesting.
like the one you used to have in the basement when you were doing the.
Yeah, I had that big old chest freezer that was from the 50s.
Yeah,
And
and you could
you
drop
could
a body in there
I could
easy.
lay down in it without bending my legs. It was a
Yeah.
huge chest
Think
freezer.
about how big that was, and somebody put chains on it and drove it out into the country and dumped it in a
Yeah.
swampy part of the quarry. That you're not just getting
Yeah.
rid of a piece of old equipment because you didn't want to take it to the dump. The dump is closer than the quarry was.
Yes. So, well, anyway, I wonder if somebody's missing with it. So, oh, there he is. So,
So that's always interesting. And I know that there was a friend of ours who worked the elephants died out in the quarry. They were swimming, and
oh,
there were suspicious things on that too, because A, he was a really good swimmer, and B, he was swimming with other people, and they came back and he didn't, and they found his body there.
he didn't
And
like dive in and break his neck or something and sink to the bottom,
no,
did
it
he?
wasn't like that. They were all it all waded in and were just swimming, and um there was some, because a couple of the guys that he was with were people on the road, and those of us on the road considered them to be fairly unsavory people.
Ah, okay.
And so there was a lot of question about whether or not
Sure.
he had been murdered or not.
Right.
Um,
Well, there's so out
so
at that
death
site,
happens out there.
there have been deaths out there. There have been unsavory situations out there. At the same time, there have been a lot of people some that we've known as friends that their whole lives were built around doing festival and being out there,
Yep.
and who have passed away. And those are some of the voices we've got. I'm convinced there was a friend of ours named Brian Murphy, who lived for that place, loved that place.
When I was younger, he played Da at the Irish Cottage.
He
The
played
cottage was
Da
his.
at the Irish Cottage. He was most well known to a lot of people as being Master Shakespeare for many years. He played Shakespeare out at our festival. And in his latter years, as I think he wasn't an elderly man. He was younger than me. But I think his body, he had some illnesses he was struggling with, and couldn't do as much, and he became the the riddle master or something like that. He'd sit in one of the stages and do riddles and things.
Down at the Hobbit Hole, he would sit
The
with
Hobbit
Matt
Hole,
the
yep.
magician, and they would do riddles, and he played sort of a fey character.
Yes, kind of a wizardy type of a leafy green character, and
Kind of like a green man.
But he passed away a couple of years ago, and we were at the bakery stage. He used to do a lot at the bakery stage, and we actually we called out to him, and I said, Jimmy and I talked about this ahead of time, and I said, there's a good friend of ours that passed away a couple of months ago. And I said, if you're out here, we know that you love this place. If that's the way it truly works and you're out here, maybe say hello to us or something. And in a couple of minutes, somebody said over the spirit box, a voice came through, and it sounded like Brian to me. But it said, I'm here. Almost like, don't miss me. I'm here. I'm here. Or like he had said something and we missed it. Hey, I'm here. And so that was interesting too. Foil play is what happens when you're wrapping up food to take home. There it is, Sarah. So Anyway, all in all, we had a good time this weekend out there, Rainey and I. We got a hotel that we were given 2 nights at the hotel, Friday night and Saturday night.
In Chaska?
That Jimmy got for us. That's always nice because it's an hour on the GPS, an hour and 11 minutes from here.
Oh, yeah. I guess it is a fair drive for you guys.
So, yeah, because it's way on the southwest of the Minneapolis-St. Paul area.
Hotel in the lovely Chaska.
We're way over on the east across the river into Wisconsin. And so, Rainey and I got the hotel room, and it was like, yes, Mom and Dad get a hotel room with no children. So what do you do for the weekend when you have a hotel with no children? Sleep all day. And so we slept in on Saturday. Then we got up and we did a little. Rainey wanted to do garage sailing down there at that because she's never out in that part of the world, and because Helen gone from where we live, and so we went out and did some garage sailing, and we went and had lunch, and then we went back to our room, and we had from about 2:00 until we don't really go on until a little bit after 9:00 at night, but the show starts around 7. And then we come out and they feed us the same feast, only we're sitting outside or up in the green room. And so we slept from about 2:30 till about 5:30, 6:00, just both out. So once again, what do you do when you're mom and dad and you're hoping for, hey, a little alone time, little sessit time. And but we both slept. That's all we did. And and it was a good thing. And so and then we went out to the thing last night. So there you go. That's how it went. So we had a good weekend. We could have stayed last night, but Grandma was here, and we didn't know we had 2 nights until we got there. And so we wanted to relieve Grandma from Rainey's mom from watching the kids. And keep in mind, folks, Rainey's mom is not even my age yet. I'm 4 years older than Rainey's mom. So it's not like she was an elderly woman, but
no, she's more my age.
She's more Dave's age. And so she could take it, but we didn't want to just pop on her. Hey, we're staying a second night, by the way, even though we didn't get home till 1:30 in the morning.
Well, let's face it, Rowan would be the tough one in this.
And she was. And she was. They loved their grandma to death. But reports I heard, they weren't so well behaved for her. So, we got one story. Ellery, our 7-year-old, going on 8. She'll be 8 in about 6 weeks. And Flynn, who's 13. Ellery gets very possessive. Our kids, there's something about, it's like we're talking on the way home last night, Rainey and I, on the drive home. Are we bad parents? Did we do something wrong? Did we miss something along the way? Because our kids are always fighting. And of course, they say fighting siblings are the siblings that are the closest later in life, or when they grow up. And so Ellie's always super hyper defensive about what's hers. And the way I heard the story, she's got the dog on her lap, and Flynn walked by to pet the dog. And she starts screaming at Flynn, I have the dog right now. You back off and blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's the same thing every day. Dave, seen it. You've seen it firsthand. And apparently, they got into an argument, and Ellery stood up on the couch or something. I don't know what, because there's such a height difference. She headbutted Flynn. She's like, back off. Wham! Headbutts him. And so I hear this and I'm like, what in the hell is the matter with my children? And so this is how they were for Grandma. Now, Grandma can handle it. She can put them in their place. She yelled them up pretty good yesterday. But we thought that we would relieve her and not ask her to stay another night. Even though we got home at 1:30 in the morning, just a few more hours, would have been dawn. But yeah, that's brutal. It's like, why is my 7-year-old
Ellery's got a lot of Kate in her.
Headbutting my 13-year-old son?
Ellery, and it's not like Kate was an influence because Kate's been living in Alaska the whole time Ellery's been alive, but she's got a lot of Kate in her.
Mm-hmm. She does. She's got a lot of defiance and stubbornness and all of that stuff. So I haven't even seen her yet this morning. She's not interested in saying hi to Dad this morning. So we can see Ellery. Are you up there? Come on down. I hear the feet. I don't know if you can hear that. Boom, 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 boom. Come here. There's barf on the floor and you stepped on it?
Ew,
I'll bet you anything that's a hairball. I hate cats. I really do. Hey, come here and say hi. I haven't seen you yet today. Hi, I missed you while I was gone. Hi.
Hi, Ellery.
Hi. So what's going on? How are you? I can put another kiss on there. Sucked out your eyeball.
Why did you? I have a question for you. Why did you headbutt your brother?
Why did you headbutt Flynn? Now, how was it? Did it hurt? Did it hurt?
The headbutting is the worst way to attack
talk about
somebody.
her crime of violence.
I'm just telling you, headbutting is the worst way to attack somebody.
Yeah. So there you go. She apparently does not want to talk about it. So I think she got in big trouble.
Well, she probably learned that that's not a good way
there
to
was
attack
coffee.
somebody.
Dad spilled coffee again. It wasn't throw up. It was coffee.
Well, that's not so bad.
I tripped on the last step this morning going up after feeding the cats early. And I had coffee in my hand. I caught my toe on the top step. And I knew I spilled coffee, but I didn't make it back.
Yeah, I wish I had $1 for every time
I didn't like spill
coffee.
Coffee. Like, oh, the
You
whole
sloshed
coffee.
it.
Just a little overflow. So, hey, if Mom's up there, she can come down. I don't hear the same pitter-patter of feet on the floor. Yeah, Rainey's,
I'm
not
back at
out
work
of
on
it,
the
out of it,
painting
but
today, finally.
she had headaches all weekend, like the beginnings of migraines, and so, well, we had a good time, and she had a good time. It was, and she drove because my glasses, I got to go get a new pair of glasses. My glasses are also gone, by the way, folks, along with my ring. My ring, my glasses, my keys are all gone.
Your good ring?
Yeah, my Benedictine, Saint Benedict ring, the round one with all the initials on it.
Okay.
For warding off evil spirits and things like that.
Not your Lord of the Rings ring.
No. That's this one. Oh, there's my beautiful wife.
Yeah, you have coffee spilled the fuck everywhere upstairs. The whole entryway, coffee down the stairs.
I tripped going up the stairs. I might have hurt myself.
I don't care that you hurt yourself. Get a fucking sippy cup, spill boy.
There you go. As said from my beautiful, loving wife.
Hi, Rainey.
Hi.
How you doing,
Uncle Dave?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Except I had to step in coffee to come down here.
Oh my!
Well, it's better than cat puke. It's better than cat puke.
See,
it is.
Just chide me like you would chide a friend at your house. Oh, you spilled coffee. That's okay. We'll get that. We'll have a kid come over and wipe that up.
Fucking mess. I'm not your maid. Jesus Christ.
Hey, when you're done rolling on the floor because you broke your leg, use your pant leg to wipe up some of that coffee you spilled.
Yeah. I don't think I realized I spilled it.
Do you know how much coffee is spilled everywhere from the garage to his smoking spot? Because he has to have his coffee to go out and smoke.
Do you just carry the cup like this as you go along?
Yeah, I do.
Sure he does.
No, there's everything. It's, if there's stuff strewn on the floor and I trip on it, I'll have a little, that little whoa.
Well, then maybe you should be cleaning instead of out smoking.
Maybe I should.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to. So.
I have to go help Ellie build her rocket. That's
if only somebody built like a tumbler with lids or something, an insulated thing that you could put coffee in.
If only we had something like that.
Yeah. If only.
Yeah.
Like tumblers with lids or something.
That stupid Star Trek.
Then I get yelled at because the lids get stained with coffee. Well, it's you stain all these lids with coffee.
When you have 50 lids, but all of them have to be used for coffee, pick 3 lids to make them nasty with coffee because they get coffee.
I know. Just use the same damn thing. I have one coffee cup and it's the same coffee cup every day. I don't even wash the damn thing because all it had in it was coffee.
Yeah. She
Once a
loves
month,
to
I
chide
send it
me in
through the
front of you all.
dishwasher.
Totally. Don't worry, I'll hear about it after I go upstairs.
No, you won't.
I gotta go help Ellie do a rocket. I really do.
Hey, I love you. Good morning.
Okay.
Good morning.
Love you, hon.
I love you.
See you
Bye.
later.
Bye, beautiful. Oh, well, you weren't over here.
Rowan,
Now
hello.
you-
Hi, sweetie.
Hi.
Why don't you come over here? So I
Hi.
can take this all back the way it belongs.
So much attitude towards Uncle Dave lately. I don't understand.
Everybody's got attitude around here. What the hell?
I have nothing but
So-
love in my heart for you, baby.
So how are you doing? Did you have a good weekend without mom and dad around?
No,
Why not?
I like you guys better.
You like us better than what?
Than Grandma.
Than grandma?
She's mean.
You love grandma.
No,
Grandmas have rules.
Yeah, grandmas have rules. Grandmas are usually softer on kids than parents are.
No, she's mean.
She doesn't tolerate no shit.
She's to you.
She's not mean to me.
Yes, she is.
Grandma and I patched up our differences a long time ago. So we didn't get
She's
along.
not even mean to me.
Typical mother-in-law, son-in-law thing. And I was older than her. So we hadn't gotten along for a long time.
Super glue for my rocket.
Need super glue. I got the Gorilla Glue, but you know what? It's a different kind of glue. Flynn was the last one to use my super glue. You can look in here and see if there's a super glue.
I drank it.
Yeah, you drank it. That's
Found it.
there it is. Now the thing about that might not be the best kind of glue. That's Gorilla Glue, and it's good, but you gotta moisten one side and then put a thin layer of glue on the other side, and then you bond them together. It doesn't stick immediately like regular super glue. I tried to use that to fix my my little Ark of the Covenant here. And I thought, oh, that Gorilla Glue will work nice. And it just never would set up.
Metal.
There you go. Oh, wait, let's see which one that is. That is Gorilla Super Glue brush and nozzle. Isn't that what just came out of the box? Oh, okay. Yeah, use this one. That one will work. So there you go. There.
Don't glue your fingers together.
Family junk going on. So anyway, so
I'm back at the painting finally. It's dried enough that I can start to do detail on the boat. So that's the plan for today, is to detail the boat, and then I've got to lay in the layers of mist because they're coming. The boat is coming out of the fog, and it's at early morning light, so it's sort of diffused non-directional light. So I'm trying to figure out how I want to.
By the way, Roger Rabbit, you're absolutely right. Gorilla Glue takes a good 10 to 20 minutes to set up and needs pressure until it dries. That's the thing. I put this thing on here and I'm holding it, and then I let go softly, and the thing would go shoot. And so I need, I need a glue that bonds instantly. It can set up. It has to have its setup time, but the instant bonding stuff is what I need. So anyway.
And that's pop metal, isn't it?
What's that?
It's pop metal, isn't it?
No, this thing? No.
Yeah.
This is, I think it's...
is it resin?
I want to say, if you look at the underside of the lid, I want to say it's resin. You see
okay.
The lines in it? And so it's hard resin that's been painted, coated. It looks like cooked paint, but I'm not sure. So, and here's the rest of that, as you all know. The little Ark of the Covenant, and I've got the little vials of sand from Senenmut's tomb. That guy right there.
Yeah.
From his tomb are all in here. And I have some little rocks and things in here too. Like I have stuff this was from Senenmut's tomb, just a little rock. The light is really bright all of a sudden. So I've got a piece of quartz.
Yeah, we'll get
in
your
here.
studio lighting in this week if we can, or maybe just after the first.
That sounds like Mom coming down the stairs. No, it's not. It was my child sounding like a 40-year-old coming down the steps. Hi. What you looking for, baby? A what?
A
Right there. Just bring it back when you're done.
Sure.
Sure. Appreciate that. Just bring it back when you're done. Sure.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that was like, yeah, right. Yeah, right. I borrow stuff. I don't bring it back. So now, do you know why my wife likes to get on me about
that for? It's like you don't even know me.
No, it's like you don't even know me. You're dead to me. It's like, you know why my wife likes to get on me for things like spilled coffee so much? Because I'm so perfect in every other area.
Yeah, that's
I'm
it.
perfect. I'm clean. I'm clean. I clean things up. I constantly pick up after people. But if I spill a little coffee, there's hell to pay. And, not,
My
are you
guess
okay?
is it
You
wasn't
didn't like
as
break
little
your
a
toe or
coffee as
anything?
you thought it was.
Yeah. So it's hard to be as perfect as I am.
It is. It is.
C'est moi, I blush to disclose. 'Tis I humbly reply, that man in whom these qualities bloom. C'est moi, 'tis I. I've never lost in battle or game. I'm simply the best by far. When swords are crossed, it's always the same. One blow and au revoir. C'est moi, the angels have chose to fight their battles below. And here I stand, as pure as a prayer, incredibly clean, with virtue to spare. The godliest man I know. C'est moi.
Oh my God! You know what? There's more of Pellinor than Lancelot in you, I think. But
No. You wouldn't shut up.
What's with the disrespect this morning? Here, these are yours. Take them off my desk. No, they're mom's. It was just a handy thing to throw at you. So, by the way, I picked up this book. I have not cracked the cover yet. It just arrived yesterday, but I had heard some very good things about it. It's a book by Charles Learson, Down and Out in Paradise, The Life of Anthony Bourdain. And I've heard that this was a very moving read. A little dark at times, very moving. He starts off, now I haven't read this yet. His prelude, he says, he was the epitome of cool, a sad, smiling Jersey boy who combined supremely high standards with the underappreciated art of not giving a shit in ways that seemed to excite both sexes. You wanted either to be him or to do him, especially if you'd heard the gossip about his gargantuan member. It's a pleasant opening to a book here, but he had the best job, if you could call it that, in the world. The best life in the world, applauded wherever he went. Cigarettes, booze, and time all looked good on him. So the question is, how did he get to the point where he wanted to kill himself? How does that scenario even begin to make the slightest bit of sense?
That's I don't get that either, because he was at the top of his game.
He was at the top of his game. They come up with all these reasonings that they think, his relationship with his wife went bad and all of that. But he also was somebody who stood out vociferously against the Clintons and the pedophilia stuff.
Also, he was Hillary.
That's some conspiracy thoughts, but it's a look at it because he was coming out in the open. I saw him saying things about Clintons and the I don't know if it was pre or post Epstein, but some things that he had said about all of that kind of stuff that went on that was connected to the Clintons and people that they knew, and all of a sudden he's committing suicide. So now they came out and said, I'm so sorry that's gotten extremely bright and white up there.
Yeah, what's up with that?
I don't know. It's washing me out all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So, but I just looked at myself and I'm like this white blur on there. So here, let's see if I can reset that a little bit. A little better. There we go. So Yeah, I look forward to reading this book about Anthony Bourdain. I really liked him.
I did
Appreciated
too.
his style and what he did. I liked. I may have mentioned this before. There was one scene where he's in Thailand and he climbs like the 7,000 steps or something to the top of this temple, whatever it was, to get up there. Grueling climbs, stair climbing. He gets to the top. The camera's got him, just looking worn out. And he says, "So I made the 7,000 steps." And he said, "I thought, what an appropriate time to light up." And he pulls out a cigarette and lights up. And he was the epitome of cool without striving to try to be cool.
Yeah.
It's just his personality.
Just naturally so.
Field Guy says, "Oh, he was probably killed by rich people." I don't think rich has anything to do with it, other than they can probably pay somebody to do it for them.
Well, and it was interesting. It happens overseas, so you don't have the FBI or anybody there to really dig into it. So,
what's Matthew say? You guys may see me come back in the chat as some restaurant, as have Wi-Fi. I think he might be going to a restaurant to find Wi-Fi. There you go. Scott Allen met Anthony Bourdain once. I would love to have met him. You never know what you're going to get with somebody like that either. You don't know if they're going to go, "Hey, it's nice to meet you. Let's sit down and talk and have a drink," or they're going to go, "Fuck off. This is my private time." You don't know. He seemed to me to be somebody that was very open to things and to travel and to seeing the world. He was the one. He had a quote that I put up a while ago that he said, "Travel will eat your soul." Kind of a thing. I'm paraphrasing. He says, because you've got to get down, not travel and see the sights, but travel and really get down and see the people and see the situations. And he says it changes your soul. And when you are out there, and isn't that something we'd all like to do? Well, maybe not all of us, but some of us would like to do. Travel, grab a pack, and have some money in your bank card. And you just go and travel
and bring a camera crew with you.
And bring a camera crew with you. Exactly. So
the 20 people that you don't see.
I thought of that, Roger Rabbit, putting a little shade over the top of my camera lens. See right there, that's about as shaded as it gets. I extend out about 8 inches, and I don't know. So it all depends sometimes. Sometimes if you just go up and make it dark, it resets the camera a little bit.
Really, if you just tilted the light up a little bit, so the
I thought of that, and just trying to tilt the light away, because it's got the 3 wings on it that come up on the side, on the 3 sides, and blows out light on you. And I mean, it's a gargantuanly bright light.
We won't have that problem when we put the studio lights in.
If I get up there and I go check this light out, I might be able to just, can I tilt this down far? No, I can't. Can't tilt it down far enough. I can just tilt it up. So maybe if I point it up, it will light the back wall a little more than me directly on me, and it might help. We'll see.
Which I think is what I said, but that's fine.
Well, yeah. Yes. So there you go. It's not really any better. It's still shining down. I mean, that's okay. Yeah.
We'll have to get some.
It's almost like an interrogation. 4 lights. If you know what that's from, folks.
Always a Star Trek reference, no matter what.
Always. So. Sarah Yusuf says Eric Rippert found him. Are you talking about Anthony Bourdain? Yeah, what gets me is he left his daughter behind. Pride and joy of his life. Travel broadens the mind and changes the soul. It's almost, yeah, that's what Anthony Bourdain said. I think there were so many reasons that he wouldn't have killed himself. But then again, people who are easily fall into depression or anxieties. Many times people who kill themselves, it's not because they made out a simple plan or a complicated plan. It's an act of the moment, I think. They'll sit down. They could write out a reason why they're doing what they're doing, and then carry through on it. Maybe sometimes not carry through on it. I don't know the things that would cause me to ever want to take my own life. I don't think I have a very short list of things. It's so short, there's maybe one thing on it. I don't know. Why would I want to take my own life? Because first of all, I don't have the personality for somebody that, and if it's personality is maybe not the best word. I don't have I think the psychological characteristics of somebody who would be able to easily off himself.
Contemplated it a couple of times in my youth.
Yeah. Sarah says depression can create a tunnel mental state. Yeah. See, I've never considered that. Of course, I've never been pushed to the point that some of these people have been pushed. I would rather just escape it all in a different way. I would say, I don't want to end it all. I'm going to go just disappear off grid, and I'm done, and I'm gone.
Almost did that too. The losing Amy just changed everything in me.
Sure. Which was 20 years ago. So here's Sarah Yusuf. Hey, Sarah.
Good morning, Sarah.
I'm going to take this branding off because it.
Because we know who we are.
There we go. Okay. How you doing, Sarah?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. There's no Rainy today?
Rainy was here, in and out. She came in to yell at me for spilling coffee. It wasn't like a pot of coffee.
I heard that conversation, and to be fair, I'm siding with Rainy on that one.
It wasn't a cup of coffee. It wasn't a pot of coffee.
No, but I mean, regardless, if you tripping up the stairs, clean it up right then and there. And then now you have Ellery walking all through it, and then Rainy's upset.
Yep,
it snowballed.
And it does
happen with the wipe.
And I don't know why I didn't wipe it up right away. I usually do.
Never do that.
But usually what it is, if I spill coffee, I don't know I've spilled it. So, it could be I'm carrying it by the. If I want to carry my coffee around, I don't carry it by the handle because it's unstable. I usually will carry my coffee this way because it's more stable.
Well, I mean, Rainy is right. You need a sippy cup.
Yeah, maybe a sippy cup.
But I mean, even your dogs and cats would probably get into it. We want them all wired up too.
Yeah, it's fine with me. They already are. I have the kitty crawling up my legs with his claws this morning while I'm putting food in his dish. Mm-hmm. It's like, chill the fuck down, you stupid animal. I will have you flayed and I'll feed you to the neighbors.
Well, that's probably a sign of anxiety because the cats and stuff, they want to reach high places where they're out of reach. So
see, we've got all of his stuff up on a shelf that's about this high.
Yeah.
And so he can hop up there, and his bed is up there, and he's got his dishes are up there, his water is up there, and he's always up there. But Rainy painted the floor out there the other day, and I had moved everything out of there, so he didn't have his normal step stool stuff.
Right.
A tub here, a thing there, and he can hop up on the shelf. So he's down at my feet, and he starts clawing his way up my leg. And I grab him by the scruff of the neck like a mom cat does. Not cruel. And I said, you little shit, just chill the hell down. Like he understood my language. Hopefully he understood my tone. Chill the hell down.
Well, I mean, they say, animals can read energy. So if you have that chill energy, then...
Right.
It's
something it's like, dude,
everybody's wound up.
I feed you every day. You're not starving. You're the least starving cat I know. And you're going to be fed in about 2 minutes. As soon as I'm done, I see we give him a mix of kitty crunchy food for his teeth and soft food to put a gravy-ish. So it's, it simulates being really good food for a cat, I guess.
Well, I mean, it's for the water content.
And
the closer it is to actual meat, the better it is for the cat.
It's like, are you ravenous? Did you not eat yesterday? And just every morning it's the same thing. It's Pavlovian.
Well, yeah, I
Every
mean,
morning,
stressy,
once I get
cats
up
can
and I
stress you
walk
just like
across
people
the room
can.
with my coffee, apparently always spilling it, the cat will run across my feet from every direction. If I turn and I go this way, he's running this way. He's trying to herd me toward the stairway to go down and feed him. So that's literally what he's doing. He only does that in the mornings.
Yeah.
And,
So he has his routine and you have yours.
Yep. And I usually ignore him. If he starts running across my feet and trips me, I'm like, dude, you're not eating for an hour now. So go find something else to do. Go bug somebody else.
I mean, you would think with as much as Ellery plays with him, you'd be tired, you know.
You'd think.
Well, except that the poor cat never walks. He's always carried someplace by one girl or the other.
One of the little girls.
She needs one of those, I
Always
guess,
something carries
wands
him.
or those toys, you know, that she can toss around.
But he's fast. He's
A stick.
zippy. He's got energy.
Bob Saget.
Bob Saget.
Bill
We
Bong.
tell the kids, you know, the cat can walk. But he's so cute and cuddly. Even last night, you know, we're out at the festival site and we're waiting for the time to go on. And Rainey's checking out the cameras back home to see what the kids are doing. And nobody's in the living room, and she's got a camera in there. And she goes, "Oh, look, there's Bob Saget sitting on the sofa." She zooms in on him. He's just sitting. With his paws in front of him, you know, on the arm of the sofa. And you can talk through the loudspeaker. Bob Saget. He goes. So.
Poor thing.
Anyway.
You're trying to freak out the cat.
Yeah, freak out the cat. And we can freak out the kids sometimes too. When we're gone and we're looking in, just checking on them. Not gone on vacation or something. Hey, we left cameras on so we could check in on them. And food's piled up on the counter. No, we'll go out for a couple hours somewhere and we check in and see what the kids are doing at home. And Rainey will always, "What are you doing?" Into the microphone. They'll jump. "Oh, it's just mom." So, anyway.
But yeah, we were talking about, you know, Anthony Bourdain because you know, I watched everything he put out on TV.
Me too.
And, you know,
I
read
still
his
do.
books. And I mean, when you're in that depressive mental state, which, you know, was a result of, you know, things that were going on in his life or not going on in his life, you know, the thing with you know, Asia Argento and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a contributing factor. But I mean, I
Exactly.
can't even imagine, you know, Eric Appert, you know, he was the chef at Le Bernardin. He's his best friend, and he's the one who finds him. You know, they're in, I think, France, was it? He was in France. So
They were overseas someplace.
I think it was Marseille or somewhere like there.
Something like that.
Yeah, because Eric was with him. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a shame, and I always keep thinking, you know, people with really, you know, higher intelligence levels, most of them end up committing suicide. Either that or becoming supervillains. You know, if you look at comic books,
That's
they all have advanced degrees.
$1 million.
You know, Dr. Octopus, Dr. Doom. You know, they all have at least a doctorate level. You know,
that's the route I've decided to take. Supervillain.
There it
you're
is.
not going to use your powers
The
for
layers
good.
are so cool.
That's right.
But
I want a layer.
we just have a semi-layer.
There it is. A semi-layer.
Right.
We're like onions. We have layers. That's layers. So, anyway, yeah, Bourdain, hearing that he had committed suicide, I was really shocked by
given
that.
Even suggested in the earlier episodes of the season, I mean, you could tell something was wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, they even, you know, displayed, you know, this thing where he was filming for a certain episode, and he just went up and just walked away and just, you know, went and sat and had a beer in a hammock and said, "I'm not doing it anymore," you know.
Yeah.
But he also, you know, he was that type of person who had trouble with, you know, trying to play to the camera, authority, you know, that sort of thing. The whole, you know, putting a certain face on when you're hosting and all that. So he wasn't really that type and that sort of.
So I loved him because he was so himself.
Yeah. I mean, he had the courage to say what everybody else was thinking. I mean, even when it comes to kitchen subculture, when Kitchen Confidential came out, nobody was telling him what was going on in the back. You know?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's the one thing. He wrote about the period when I was running the restaurant, and even in a small town, it was the same.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
yeah. And then, you know, people said, oh, it's not to get the, you know, fish or on certain days, or you know, it sort of, you know, brought a light to what food culture is and where our food actually comes from, because most people don't give a thought until it's like right in front of your face. You know.
Ryan says travel empties the bank account. Yeah, it does. But then again, you have, you know, the way you travel. My grandfather traveled all over Korea and different places and around the world. Honduras, where he eventually bought his land on that island. He traveled all over the place, and he could have written one of those, you know, how to travel the world on 50 cents a day.
Yeah,
because he was very frugal. I think travel, I know what you're saying, Ryan. You travel and you go stay bed and breakfasts, or
I mean, you want a certain amount of comfort.
It can get pretty spendy and drain your account.
Well, but also there's a metaphorical thing in there too, and that it empties the mental and emotional bank account as well. There's you're putting out constantly. Emotionally and mentally and stuff, and it's draining especially when you're doing it like that, where it's in essence become your livelihood, and you're just always living out of a suitcase.
Yeah, I mean that's tough too.
This is the quote that I was referring to with Anthony Bourdain. He says, "Travel changes you. As you move through this life and this world, you change things slightly. You leave marks behind, however small, and in return, life and travel leaves marks on you." That actually isn't the quote I was talking about.
I mean, that's very true. I mean, even if you're not, you know, going on a proper journey, whenever you leave the house and, like, say, to go to the post office and smile at somebody, that changes. You know, there was one time. You know, there's a certain person that when I went to the post office, I would, you know, smile and say, hey, and all that. And then later I found out, you know, because he told me that, you know, I'm glad, you know, that you smiled at me, because I was feeling like I was suicidal, and he was happy to see that somebody was happy to see me and that sort of thing. You know,
right.
It's your heart. And it's like, and then, you know, smiling costs nothing, you know?
Yeah.
And but I mean, for me, even that's difficult. You know, I try to smile where I can, but I mean, it's like you're putting up a front as well. You know,
sure. Well,
here's
the quote I was thinking of. He said, "Travel isn't always pretty. It isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it hurts. It even breaks your heart. But that's okay. The journey changes you. It should change you. It leaves marks on your memory, on your consciousness, on your heart, and on your body. You take something with you. Hopefully, you leave something good behind."
Yeah.
So, you know, that's that was his take on travel.
Yeah.
And he also said the way you make an omelet reveals your character.
Yeah, that's true also.
I like to crush the eggs and beat them severely.
Crush, I beat the egg open. He said, I've got quotes of Anthony Bourdain's in front of me. He says, "Don't lie about it. You made a mistake. Admit it and move on. Just don't do it again, ever." And what he said about cooking. Cooking is a craft, I like to think, and a good cook is a craftsman, not an artist. There's nothing wrong with that. The great cathedrals of Europe were built by craftsmen, though not designed by them. Practicing your craft in expert fashion is noble, honorable, satisfying.
I don't totally agree with it. I think it's both a craft and an art.
Yeah, it's both. It's definitely.
These people that cook with tweezers, they're not craftsmen, they're artists.
Yep. And he said,
microgreens.
to me, To me, life without veal stock, pork fat, sausage, organ meat, demi-glaze, or even stinky cheese is a life not worth living. And then I like this. This is he says, I'm a big believer in winging it. I'm a big believer that you're never going to find a perfect city travel experience or the perfect meal without a constant willingness to experience a bad one. Letting the happy accident happen is what a lot of vacation itineraries miss, I think. And I'm always trying to push people to allow those things to happen rather than stick to some rigid itinerary.
Yeah.
I was in Egypt. I ate a lot of interesting food in the common places in Egypt. So it's like, what is that? Oh, that is a minute. And it's like, what is that exactly? Oh, it's it's like a cross between lizard and goat and roach. I don't know what it is. It's some kind of mystery meat. Mystery meat floating in some kind of great looking sauce. And it tasted good. And there was this
Probably
dish.
goat.
I don't remember what it's called. Excuse me. I don't remember what it's called, but it was meat. It was like roast beef. It's shredded like roast beef,
Goat.
but it was afloat in this
Beef camel too.
brown red sauce, and it was very good. And that was
Probably
that
a
came
type
with
of
every
curry.
meal.
Yeah.
So
Curry or stew or something. But
the journey is part of the experience, an expression of the seriousness of one's intent. One doesn't take a train to Mecca. So it's the journey. It's the experience. That's it. It's the journey. It's the experience.
Lots
well,
of
they actually
truth
do
in
have
that.
trains to Mecca now, but I mean,
Yeah, right.
they have to-
No, what he was saying is you don't take the train to Mecca.
right. I mean,
You take
the easy way.
pilgrimage. You do
the easy way.
You do the thing, and so
Yeah, for me, when it comes to travel and everything, if it's like a completely new foreign country, I will still do like the tours the first time around, and then the second time I would be once I kind of like have the lay of the land, then I would be comfortable going around on my own, So I always
yes,
think about going to a place at least twice. So,
I hate being a tourist, but you have a point. There are things that are set up that just make the exploration easier.
yes,
yeah, and like say you want to see like something with cultural significance, you won't know unless somebody tells you about it, right? Or you do your own research into it. So yeah, I mean, just once you kind of have kind of the lay of the land, then you can kind of go off and do whatever, and you also make friends or people there, and you talk to locals, do all that stuff. And especially when you have a guide the first time around, then you kind of because every culture is different, and
yeah,
it's like you don't want to get it stuck in a foreign country, end up being robbed, and not knowing what to do and where to go. And a lot of people have those types of fears whenever they leave their home country and all that, going into a foreign nation.
He said about travel. Travel is about the gorgeous feeling of teetering in the unknown.
Yeah. It's the same thing with the paranormal,
Yeah.
It's I mean, most people
Teetering
will
into the unknown.
dabble into travel rather than the supernatural, but I mean, it's still.
So
I mean,
very good
and both can lead to the other type of experience. I mean, where you find sites that just take your breath away, and and it, like you said, affects the soul. It changes your soul. So.
Cordia asks, Sarah, isn't depression a brain chemistry lack of firing neutrons?
What was the question? I don't have the
isn't
chat
depression a brain chemistry lack of firing neutrons?
Neutrons or neurons? I think she means neurons.
Probably neurons.
Neurons, but no. I mean, depression. I mean, there are certain neurochemicals that are suppressed when people are depressed, but I mean, it's more of a mental state. It's a mental state. I mean, which through therapy or being able to work through it, you develop new neural pathways and ways of understanding of the world and what the issue is, and able to deal with it. To deal with those particular issues. So
There it is. I don't understand depression from an experiential point of view. Have I gone through temporal depression? Yeah. You're depressed for a short period of time because whatever the causes might be. But I've never been one who's given to depression, or I can get discouraged, but that comes out in different ways in me. Sometimes it's very hard to work or accomplish things if I get into that temporal state.
right, a lack of focus.
Yeah, I lose focus. And sometimes it's and people don't always understand that. My wife works very hard to understand that. If I'm writing, or if I'm doing work, or if I'm lacking work, is where it hits me. If I lack work and I've got other things I could be doing to bolster things, it's those things go by the wayside a little bit because I'm so focused on making sure I'm making it and that I'm succeeding. I'm not talking about the big success, the monthly success.
Right. I mean, just trying to get through day to day, which a lot of people
trying to get through day to day,
depression too. But I mean, from what I'm listening, even if I'm understanding correctly, that's more frustration than depression.
Yeah, it's frustration.
Frustration.
It comes out in discouragement. You get a little discouraged. And stuff
of
like
course.
that. That's when I experience that stuff.
Yeah.
What I've learned to do is channel that depression into the art or the writing or whatever I'm doing, and use that as the muse to.
I haven't learned that. To me, that's an ideal setting. To be able to say, oh, I can just take this depression or this discouragement and channel it into something useful. I don't experience a lot of depression and discouragement. So when I do, I can't channel it into something that's more productive. I tend to shut down on being creative. The muse, in a way, I could say the muse doesn't speak when I'm discouraged or that.
Right. Some people experience writer's block, or
writer's block, things like that. It's like try to write through writer's block.
Yeah, you can try and redirect it. There's only so much redirection a person can take. Where you just have to kind of.
So, but different
either
people
write it out or work through it, because
I've
seen a lot of people and I've experienced it myself. I mean, I was never a good writer anyway. And like it would take me an hour just to do like one school essay, 1-page school essay. It would take me like over an hour to do like a paragraph.
when I struggle the most with my writing is when I'm not in the mood to write. I don't have, or it's like, and you can't always just depend on that. Sometimes you just got to write through it.
Yeah.
But I'll read back at some things I've written, and I go, "What a pile of junk!" And I've got to go and rewrite it eventually, and because it was crap. When I wrote The Sword in the Clay, I was so pumped for writing that story down that even though I had my moments where I went back and forth for 5 hours on a paragraph trying to make it work the way I wanted it to flow, because you type what's in your head, sometimes it doesn't always read like you think it in your head.
Yeah, it doesn't equal to it, and then you go back like a day later and you said, "What is
and you're
this?"
Like, who wrote that piece of shit?
The fickle muses.
What did Hemingway say? He said write drunk, edit sober, and so but that book just flowed. It was just boom, 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 boom. I had very little to rewrite other than scenes where I could see, maybe Dave, you're like this when you write. I know a lot of people are like, I see the story cinematically.
Right.
Yeah.
In my head.
That's how I do it too.
I see the lighting. I see the wet glisten on the road. I see the grittiness. I see the happiness. I see whatever the scenario is.
You feel the sensation.
See those things.
You feel
like a movie is playing in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to go, okay, I'm writing. Then I see this, and then this happens, and then the light is this, and the dark is that, and the building casts this shadow, and the sun does this. And I try to write that way, and I try to write in a sense almost conversationally, as if I'm telling you the story. If I was to audibly tell the story, um, I write the same way. I try to paint the picture in words, and so without getting too verbose. And then there's the mistake I see lots of writers make, is they spend so much time trying to build backsetting that
Right.
you're
Yeah.
lost in the backsetting and you never get to the story right.
Right. Yeah, I've seen that a lot too.
And
But I mean, it's a balance between trying to create that enough of an immersive environment that you're in there, and then
Right.
get on with the plot. It's a balance, and some people have it, and some people have.
And then there's
different-
sometimes the danger of, because I see it in my head, I'm not fleshing out the picture in words. What I see in my head is he's hiding in the undergrowth of the woods, waiting for this knight to ride by, and he's going to launch an attack. But what I see in my head is the hawthorn bush, and I see him hiding beneath the branches of the hawthorn, and I see the sun, little bits of sun dappling on his cheek, and I can see the big tree and the path and the overgrowth and the way the light hits and the way the sound bounces. And you've got to write all that without spending 5 pages doing it,
Right.
or you'll lose your reader.
Yeah.
So you've got to say that all in a paragraph.
Yeah, that's why book writing takes so long, because
Yeah.
you do it when you're in the moment, and then you look at it, like, say, a week later or a month later, or have somebody else look at it and see, what do you see? If you had Rainey read it and
Yeah.
have her tell it.
That's why I would always read what I wrote to Rainey. I said,
Yeah.
listen to this. And
So it makes getting that
so
second
she-
opinion is very important, because when you're in your head, you understand in your head because it's making certain connections, which the reader has to make those similar types of connections. The reader has to try and get it into your head, and how the way you think and the way you
Yes.
or do things. So
and it's
it's an art form.
Rainey says, I've read your books 10 times each, whether you know it or not, because I read them to her. So Grumpy Stack says, I understand nothing. Well, you know what? I've
the
always
club.
said, Grumpy Stack, in my latter years here, the more shit I know, the more I realize I don't know shit. And so and I try not to hold that over people when I see it in them. It's like, just chill. That's my thing. Just chill. You don't have to be so full of anxiety about other people and other things. Just live and enjoy. And that's what people can't seem to do, is live and enjoy. And of course, in our society now, it's all becoming. Somebody said, it was
Everybody's a ball of nerves.
Cordia said it. I've noticed there's more depression and sadness in the people as a whole now. And there's more of that these days. But that's also, you can't let politics run your life, or government, or civics, or whatever you want to call it. But they are also the things that, if you're locked into, I am the product, or not the product of, I exist in my society at the whim of civics and government and politicians. Now, if that drives you nuts and maybe a little insane sometimes, I get that. But at the same time, it's that is something that we can't let overrun us, but we have to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
When you pay attention to it, it can sometimes, when it affects you, it affects your family, it affects your wallet, it affects the way you eat, the places you go, the distances you drive. All of a sudden, that becomes a very palpable thing for a lot of people. I can't drive to this place because, you know what? It costs too much money to pay for gas, so I don't get to do that thing. And that's the way we get. There's my beautiful.
Right here. I sent Ellie down here.
Well, see, now I've got that. That's a different kind of glue. You have to, I didn't notice that when I bought it. You got to moisten one side and glue on the other.
Well,
and then you got to hold it for about 20 minutes before it's set. So wherever the super glue is, Flynn was one of the last people to use it, and oh, nice. Well, it never gets replaced is the problem. Put back. Go look out in the big tool chest. There might be some up in there. If you don't have time to look for that, well, try that glue and see if it works. You got to have something glued in minutes now because they have to go to the rocket thing for scouts. So,
but I mean, as far as what she was saying about depression being more prevalent now, personally, I think it's always been there, but it's just being brought up to light now. It's always been there, and then now, it's being put more attention on it then.
Right. And she says, I feel other people's emotions or energy. I have to turn it off. It's draining.
Oh,
yeah, many times it comes from other people around you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I understand that.
That's the downside of being an empath.
There you go. Yeah. You're always on.
I mean, you have to control, develop your own control mechanisms and all that.
Yeah.
Speaking of energy, for next week, are you still planning on doing Celtic stuff, or are we going to get into a little bit more?
I'll probably try to wrap up the Celtic mythology stuff. There's still a lot of information there. I think it's fun information to get into.
Yeah.
But there's some other things, and you notice that I'll get into these series, and I don't want it to be tedious, and so we'll hop into other topics along the way.
I'm just saying that if you want to get into Halloween monsters, because there's even there's different stuff we can discuss, like with vampirism. We can talk about energy vampires, sanguinarians, all that stuff. Zombies, that covers like Frankenstein type stuff.
What's the end of our month look like right now? It's the 23rd. Next Sunday
24th is Monday.
The last Sunday of the month.
Monday is Halloween.
Monday is Halloween, the 31st.
Thursday, we're doing the investigation at the lodge.
Mm-hmm. And that is all going to depend on if we have a sitter over here, if we can join you. So, it's Grandma Barb.
3 days and
we're expecting about 80 people. It'll be a big crowd.
Yeah, it's a big crowd. I don't like investigating with big crowds, but
well, they'll be divided up into different rooms, and we'll kind of rotate around. But
cool. Well, yeah, it'll be interesting. I want to go, so we'll see how things pan out this week.
Yeah.
We're getting Grandma back out.
I wanted to ask you, Uncle Dave. I mean, is the way the lodge is built? Is it built in such a way where it concentrates, energy?
Yes.
Okay. Because I've heard about that, but I haven't been to an actual lodge, but I've heard that sort of stuff happens in the architecturally with the.
By the way, if Field Guy lived closer, he'd be our sitter. So.
The girls might tear him apart.
Yeah, just following the chat room. That's going on. So, Grumpy Stack wants to do 3,000 push-ups through the month of. That's at least.
You're a better man than I, Gungadin.
I think I can crack out a dozen. Not 100 a day. So. Andrew Mulnick says their Masonic Lodge is hosting a haunted house. So,
yeah, everybody's got getting those Halloween plans in.
Yeah,
but I mean, for people like me and us, it's Halloween every day. It's when we allow the normies to just come and join the fun.
Exactly. So I was going to say, it's like watching the news. And all the news, they all have their haunted stories. They got to tell the spooky stories. It's that time of year. Hey, it's spooky every day of the year.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But you're going with the holiday. I get it.
No, but I mean, it's like even the spooky, I guess where I'm just jaded enough. It's like the spooky stories are not spooky to me.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, it's about time we're getting close to wrapping up. It's like 10:56, and we have to rush in all kinds of big topics in the last 3.5 minutes of the hour. But
you just have to wait for Professor Barr to show up.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, Professor. This is Professor Bauer's cue to come on, and they want to start a discussion. Where are you? So anyway, all this week, folks, as most of you know already, because there's only about 10 of you left live viewing that I can see. Intrepid Radio, and we we're actually going through Subspace Radio's servers now. So by tomorrow night, we'll be broadcasting through Subspace Radio. And so I appreciate everybody being here, and we'll see you 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, the same as every night.
All right.
Sarah, thanks for being here.
Sure.
You have a fun day.
You too.
And we'll talk later.
Bye.
And
all.
Uncle Dave, good to see you, brother. And we'll talk to you probably a little later. Figure it out Thursday. So, all right.
Sounds good.
Happy painting. All right, folks. So there it is. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of the show, as always, Sunday morning. And so we're going to get out of here now. So live long and prosper.